Sup guys, Heeking here, bringing you some Resident Evil 9 discussion videos. So this is going to be part one of a few videos I'm going to try and do. It's going to be a bit annoying though. I feel like every RE content creator has pretty much talked about what they need to talk about. So what I'm going to be saying is pretty much just going to be similar stuff, honestly. So it's just going to feel repetitive. But I did want to give my takes on a few things. So I thought, why not? Let's just do this. And yeah, so yeah, remember to like and subscribe, guys. This first part is just going to be discussing like what we know about the game already, and of course I'm going to read some comments from YouTube that gave me some ideas regarding some things that I didn't think about before. So yeah, let's go through that first. So first up, we know that this game is going to be first person and third person. So yeah, Capcom basically sort of listened to the fan demand of that. Keep in mind that I did say for a while now that if RE9 comes out, it's probably going to use both camera perspectives, because RE Village basically sort of set that up with its DLC at the end. It did feel like an experiment. It did feel like an attempt to see whether both perspectives could work. And you know, when it sort of did, they were like, okay, let's use this for the next game. Let's make that the unique thing about the next game. But I did get some comments from people that were a bit worried about it. Quain Train, for example, had this to say: and we don't know how good third person is going to be. We're going to have to go through the game first. If it's similar to Village, it's not going to be good. It just didn't feel right. It wasn't smooth. It felt like a mod that was thrown into the game. So first up, I agree with this. Yes, that's technically what it was. It was a mod that was just thrown into Village at the very end. It was DLC after all. Like you can tell it was something they just added in. They didn't really work on it properly all that much. It didn't feel smooth. It didn't feel seamless. But that's the difference between this and RE9. RE9, from the very start of its development, apparently had this idea in mind. From the very beginning, they sat down and they were like, when we're making this game, we're going to make it first person and third person. This isn't going to be a patch that we're going to add in on day one. This isn't a DLC we're going to add in later. We're making this both perspectives at the same time. So going into RE9, it's going to be fine. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's going to be fine. It's going to be seamless. From what people have played in the previews, they pretty much said that it feels seamless. So they've already addressed those issues, thankfully. So it should be fine. But yeah, moving on to other stuff. I think the other part is regarding to do with Grace and why she's chosen. Now, I kept wondering why this would be a big deal. Why would she be considered the chosen one by a villain? And one of the users made a few comments that I didn't even think about before that relates pretty much heavily to Outbreak. So we got IBS, W8C. In Outbreak, Elisa is infected with the T virus, and then she receives a vaccine called Daylight. So she has antibodies, and naturally, so does her daughter Grace. So that guy in the chair may be referring to Elisa or Grace as a special chosen one because of the antibodies they have, and maybe something he needs. Yeah, so I didn't even consider this. I completely forgot that, yes, in Outbreak, you have 8 characters, and in order to get the good ending, all 8 characters are infected from the start of the game, apparently, but in order to get the good ending, you need to develop Daylight, and you need to use it on yourself to cure yourself. So all of those characters should technically have the antibodies in them. Keep in mind, they could change or retcon the canon in a way where specific characters in Outbreak survived, and specific characters might have died. Okay, I know Elisa is alive because in RE7 we got those. We read that one report that was written by her, so we knew she was safe. And obviously, like in like the backstory or the like behind the scenes stuff, we know, for example, Yoko survived because she was one of the people that testified against Umbrella with her knowledge and that, etc., etc. As well as one of the characters that you save in Outbreak File 2, Linda, who helped with the development of the vaccine. But you also got to keep in mind there's different versions of this T-virus vaccine. You know, Joe had one, and then obviously you have the Daylight, but then you also have that vaccine I think you develop in Outbreak File 2 as well. And then there's the vaccine in Resident Evil Degeneration that was developed by Will Farmer. So there's already various versions of this antivirus. So it kind of makes me curious, why would this villain be seeking this specific person out when there's other people with this vaccine? Is this going to be a case where we're going to go into this game, right, and then we're going to find out that a lot of the survivors who were vaccinated were targeted perhaps, and it wasn't just Elisa and then her daughter? Grace makes a lot of sense though when you think about it, because she would have been born with those antibodies intact. She would be the first person to be born with the T-virus antibodies. So that would make her very, very, very unique and a very special person in that regard. So in that perspective, it kind of makes sense why the villains would target her. But that's the thing. How do these people know that these people were vaccinated? I mean, I guess they would have told the world, right? Oh, we developed the daylight, we went out the cure, we vaccinated ourselves, etc., etc. But you think the government would go in and grab all of these people and start doing experiments on them from day one, like they did with Sherry, right? So a bit weird, that's the thing that's got me a bit curious. It's like, is there more to this, or is something else going on? He also replied, also, the unidentified new virus could potentially be an altered T-virus due to the radiation caused by the nuke in Raccoon City. So, yeah, that's actually an interesting take. Like, it's been a few years. We know from the Outbreak 1 end credit scene that there was still life in Raccoon and that Umbrella or the US government was still bombarding it. Because Umbrella did build a base there in a crater, and I think it was financed by the US government. So they were still doing something to Raccoon City even after its destruction. So you kind of have to wonder what happened, like what kind of life survived there and would have mutated because of the explosion. Like, you know what they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? So, and then moving on to one last post from him. One more thing. I have a theory that a cult has risen in Raccoon City that worships the dead, links with the title and capture of the game, Requiem for the Dead, Nightmare for the Living. There is that hooded black cloak figure, could be a bunch of them, part of a cult. The word Requiem itself is defined as a mass for the dead. They may have formed from the previous Umbrella researchers who were based at Raccoon City after its destruction. The same ones we saw in that scene in Outbreak, the one where we can see one of the research bases posted inside one of the craters from the strike. So yeah, like I said, I just mentioned that strike. We know that some Umbrella scientists were still conducting experiments. Even after Umbrella went down, one has to assume that those experiments or observations or whatever it is they were doing in Raccoon City was still ongoing, and it was being financed by the US government. You got to keep in mind, they were the real villains. They were the ones who tried to hush everything up and wipe everything out. Of course, that's a topic for another video that I'm going to do regarding that. But for now, yeah, the idea of a cult potentially having risen, that's an interesting take to go into. I wouldn't mind seeing something like that. But it would have to be done really, really, really well. Like, they can't half-arse it if you're going to do something. If you're going to do a concept like that, it needs to be really, really good. But yeah, that's an interesting thing to consider. Moving on. So this is from Sheriff 956. Because the hospital is part of the smaller community called Rhodes Hill, it's part of Arklay County. It wasn't affected because it was far enough away from the big city. So Rhodes Hill, we know it's referenced in File 2. We know it's a location that's basically in Raccoon City, or on the outstrikes of Raccoon City, or in Arklay. They could have retconned this and changed the environments around to make it closer. But yeah, the idea that this is a part of the community that's not being affected is an interesting take. My take on this is this. Like, the game's going to start at the Redwood Hotel. It's going to be a very short segment, similar to the guest house in RE7 or Ethan's house in RE8. And then from there, shit's going to hit the fan. And then from there, Grace is going to get kidnapped. And then she's going to be taken to the Rhodes Hill Civic Center. And this part of the game is going to be, this is going to be sort of like the castle segment of the game. Another comparisons I would say is Final Fantasy VII. So this would be the Midgard section of the game. You're going to start off in this area, this very cramped, claustrophobic area. You're going to be getting chased by this giant creature. And you're going to be making your way through this hospital until eventually you get to the exit, which is going to lead outside. You get to the exit, you get outside, it opens up, and then you're in for the shock of your life, where Grace then learns that she's basically in Raccoon City. So that's going to be the big twist. The game's going to open up, the world is going to open up, and then from there on, I don't know, maybe this game is going to be open world, maybe it's going to be semi-open world, but I imagine it's going to be a very similar situation to Village or Final Fantasy, where after you finish the castle, you come out and you're in the village now, or basically like Midgard. You come out of Midgard and then boom, the world opens up. But in this case, in RE9's case, when you exit the Civic Center, you're going to be in Raccoon City, or at least you're going to be in the Arklay parts that lead to it. So yeah, that's a very interesting thing to think about. Another interesting to think about is if this does take place in the Arklay County area, you have to kind of wonder, like, does this mean that we're going to go to Raccoon Forest? Are we going to go to the Arklay Mountains? Are we going to go to the ruins of the Spencer Mansion, perhaps? Because you've got Raccoon City, fine, we know we're going to be going there, but it would be kind of cool to explore the ruins of the mansion as well, right? Like, that would be kind of cool as well. Especially if this giant creature you know, that we have in this game is potentially a mutated Lisa Trevor. But that's a topic for another video I'm going to discuss. But yeah, this also brings up an interesting fact about returning characters, because if you are going back to Arclay, right, you know, one of the characters that would make sense to bring back would be Jill. So it's kind of weird if Leon is the returning character, and then he's just portion is all to do with like nostalgia and going through Raccoon City alongside Grace and dealing with all this crap. But then you have Jill who lived there, who had to escape, who had to see her city destroyed, and then she's not going to be in this. And then you go back to Arclay, to the Spencer Mansion, maybe, perhaps, and then she's not going to be in this. Like, maybe we get Chris, but I don't feel like you're going to have that same emotional value of Chris is in this, like, that Jill has. Like, Jill would make more sense because of RE3. I don't know, it's just a thing to consider, you know? Here we go. So this is by Jesse Jive. Even if there wasn't a restoration project taking place, the hospital could be something just Umbrella or one of the entities uses to experiment. I don't think there's any radiation because apparently it wasn't an atomic bomb or a nuke. There was some kind of hydrogen bomb. I really like the idea that there is radiation and there's a lot of zombies left and they're also affected by radiation in some way. I think that could be really cool, but there may not be civilians living there. Umbrella might be able to work more out in the open too, but I think you're right that they have been trying to restore the city, especially if it wasn't radiation. But all the cities destroyed in Japan from the atomic bomb and all the bombing are like mega cities now, so if you could do that in such a short period of time, I think the city in the United States and more modern day without radiation could do it in normal times. So yeah, this is regarding like the radiation, if there is radiation. If there is radiation, you'd imagine that we would get enemies that are radiated that would give us a new way of having to fight them or handle them. But then we know that it wasn't really a nuclear bomb that bombed Raccoon City. It was like it was some kind of different kind of explosive device that did it. That was more like a heat-based, I imagine, like heat and explosive and like wind combustion sort of based, I think. I'm not an expert on this stuff, guys. Like, so don't take my word for this. A lot of this, I'm sort of like, I'm just spewing my own speculations on this. I don't know what the hell I'm saying, to be honest. But I don't think it was a nuke. It was a nuke. Otherwise, it would be a very heavily contaminated area. Like, so it wouldn't make sense to go in there, right? It'd be like Chernobyl, basically, right? So it doesn't make sense. Or so it would have to be some kind of hydrogen bomb, right? But yeah, guys, that's really all this video is. It's just like me reading these comments and giving you my takes on this. So yeah, I actually did do a longer video with a bunch of topics in it, but like it just got sort of clouded and muddied, so I just kind of want to separate all of this into specific sections to talk about so it's easier instead of being this overlong video with different things talking at once. But yeah, that's really all I have to speculate on. It's going to be very curious what this game is really going to be about. It's going to be very curious to see how much of this ruined Raccoon City we're going to explore. It's going to be very curious to see what returning characters do factor in, because if this game is really, really big, surely Leon can't be the only returning character, right? Like, obviously Elisa is a returning character. We're going to probably get some stuff of her in flashbacks and that. But I want more returning characters. I don't want just Leon. Like, obviously Ada has to be in this. If Leon's in there, Ada has to be in this. But I also want Jill. I really do want Jill. Like, even if it is like a small portion. This is another thing to consider as well. Like, this is the director of RE Revelations and Resident Evil 7. You kind of have to factor in what direction is this game going to go into. Is this going to be more Resident Evil 7? Or is this going to be more Resident Evil Revelations? Because with Revelations, you had a very focused horror atmosphere with Jill, but then at key points, the game would cut to Chris or Keith, and you would have these action segments, right? So I'm very curious, like, if this game is going to be designed in the same way, where you do play as Leon multiple times in key action segments, but then you play as other characters as well. In this case, like Jill, for example, the same way that you would play Keith or Parker, for example, and besides just Chris. So I'm kind of hoping that this game is structured similar to that. Otherwise, you know, because I do not want it to be similar to RE7 or RE8, where you play like one character after a certain point. Like, you played Mia, for example, in RE7 at one point. That was cool. Same with Chris. But those were very short segments. Like, I don't want it to be like a very short segment. I want this to be like a pretty long multiple case segment where you play as Leon at key times. Another thing also to consider with the camera perspective, like, you know, like people are going to ask me, like, what camera perspective are you going to play when you get RE9? I'm going to play this in first person, okay? I know there's people who don't like the first person aspect, and I did read some comments, and I do get some people's backlash from it. I do understand, but For me, first person just works when it comes to the horror. It works, and it's been proven with other games as well. Alien Isolation did it very well. The Outlast games did it very well. Like, and it's not the first time Ari has done first person. We had it with Survivor. We had it with Dead Aim. We had it somewhat with the original 3DS with Revelations 1. So, you know, it works. It's been proven that it works, and it works very well when it's done right. And in my opinion, RE7, RE8 are great examples of first-person horror done right. You know, if you're one of those people that's just like, oh, this isn't RE because it's first-person, then I honestly just go away. Like, really go away. But if you have a general complaint, if you have a proper actual reason why you can't stand it, then it's like, fine, I get it. You're not into first-person games. You know, RE, for you, RE doesn't really work. I get it, but at the same time, it's like you need to let that kind of notion go. Like it's just, it feels very childish. Do you know what I mean? For me, it's just like, it's such a childish take. But I'm gonna be playing this in first person as Grace, okay? Because it's a new character and her segments clearly are more horror focused. So first person with Grace just makes sense. When it comes to Leon, if he is in this. Keep in mind, guys, they haven't actually confirmed Leon in this. You have a lot of leakers saying he's in this, but he might not be. It might be a different returning character. It might be Kevin Ryman, you know? Like, it could be Outbreak characters that are returning and none from the actual games. Yeah, if Leon is in this, I'll probably be playing his parts in third person because Leon is Leon. You know, I want to be able to see his character. Obviously, I'm going to try and play this in multiple perspectives when I can, switch it up in here. But for my first playthrough, I'm definitely going to play this in first person with Grace and probably third person with Leon, just to experience both at the same time in a unique way. Which I imagine would kind of be the thing that they will do with this, like, because it is recommended that you play this in first person. Apparently the preview does say recommended, but I imagine it's going to be a case of, you know, this is recommended in first person as Grace, and then when you get to Leon, it's going to be like recommended in third person. I imagine they're going to do it like that. I bet you they're going to do it like that properly. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say regarding this. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, remember to like and subscribe, guys, and I can't wait to see more of this game eventually. Yeah, we got what, like 250 days left before it releases? Maybe more than that, but yeah, it's gonna be a long wait. 8 months, guys. 8 months. Yeah. Anyway, take care. Bye, guys. Take care and bye.